I'm going to make a statement on a very important matter. This statement is meant to throw light on the enforcement of 117 and 118 of the 1992 Constitution. Honorable members, a matter of concern and public interest has recently been brought to my attention by the Judicial Service, which requires me to make this statement to throw more light as a sequel to the circular issued by the Chief Justice and a guide to the members of Parliament, the Clerk to Parliament, and the general public. As honorable members are aware, the 1992 Constitution has provided for the Speaker, honorable members of Parliament, and the Clerk to Parliament privileges and immunity which are absolutely necessary for the due execution of the functions and the powers of the Parliament. These privileges are special rights enjoyed by the House collectively as a whole and by members individually, without which the members could not discharge their functions. And these privileges exceed those enjoyed by other bodies or individuals. This is to ensure that the legislature is able to carry out its constitutional duties without let or hindrance from judicial processes. One of such privileges and immunities is contained in Article 117 of the 1992 Constitution, which provides that, and I quote, civil or criminal process coming from any court or place out of Parliament shall not be served on or executed in relation to the Speaker or member or the Clerk to Parliament while he is on his way to, attending at, or returning from any proceedings of Parliament, unquote. Honorable members, in the seminar and induction workshop of members of this House, the first Deputy Speaker dealt with this subject matter extensively as the resource person. But it seems to me it has to be done on this matter. I say this because my attention has been drawn recently to the attempts by some members of Parliament to decline or evade service of court processes and documents while Parliament was on recess, and the honorable members were not on their way to attending at any proceedings of the Parliament. This situation has led to some confrontation with court process servers, while some justices have had to resort to the issuance of substituted service orders to ensure the smooth adjudication of cases before them. I also got to know that some members were arraigned before the court and charged with various offenses without any notice to the Speaker of Parliament. This is an aberration and should not be repeated. Honorable members, we are all in agreement that the coordinate arms of government, while acting independently, must operate as an organic whole with due regard and respect to each other to ensure an equilibrium in the governance architecture and for the protection of the rule of law and the constitutional order. I want to say a few things about the scope and enforcement of Articles 117 and 118 of the Constitution. Honorable members, the operational term in Article 117 that is worth noting is that the immunity granted by the Constitution to specific functionaries of Parliament is only to be exercised when the functionary, I quote, is on his way to, attending at, or returning from any proceedings of Parliament, unquote. In other words, members of Parliament may only avail themselves of this immunity when Parliament is in session. Proceedings of the House has been defined to also include sittings, meetings of Parliament and its committees. Further, Article 118(1) of the Constitution provides that, I quote, neither the Speaker nor a member of nor the clerk to Parliament shall be compelled while attending Parliament to appear as a witness in any court or place out of Parliament. Clause 2 of Article 118 provides, and I quote, the certificate of the Speaker that a member or the clerk is attending the proceedings of Parliament is conclusive evidence of attendance at Parliament, unquote. These provisions have unfortunately in some instances been disregarded by some court officials. Indeed, speakers of previous parliaments have sought to provide guidance on the enforcement of these provisions and have that service or processes from outside Parliament on honourable members have been effected with the permission of the Speaker. While the enforcement and application of the provisions in Article 118 of the 1992 Constitution have largely been without incident, the enforcement and application of Article 117 has been fraught with challenges. As Speaker of the 8th Parliament, I receive a flood of requests for the service of processes on honourable members of Parliament, and in some cases, processes attempted to serve honourable members in the presence of Parliament during the first meeting, which processes had to be returned to the registrars. To ensure that this situation is contained, I had cause to formally write to draw the attention of His Lordship, the Chief Justice, to the non-compliance with these positions by officers of the Judicial Service. In a letter dated 19 February 2021, an address to the Chief Justice and head of the Judicial Service, I indicated my strongest reservations with the attempt by officers of the Judicial Service to serve court processes on some members of Parliament, the Clerk to Parliament, and the Speaker of Parliament, while these office holders were attending to the proceedings of Parliament at the presence of Parliament when Parliament was. I did not take kindly to that conduct and highlighted same to His Lordship the Chief Justice. Such conduct, for me, is unconstitutional and amounted to an interference with the work of Parliament and is not to be countenanced. The Chief Justice, by a letter dated 22nd February 2021, respectfully acknowledged these breaches of the Constitution by officers of the Judicial Service and reiterated the position I have just outlined. He went further to assure me of his immediate action to halt the practice. He proceeded to do just that in a circular and provided me with a copy of the circular which directed that the provisions in Articles 117 and 118 be respected by all judges and court officials. The circular further reminded the court officials that the Speaker, members of Parliament, and the Clerk to Parliament shall not be served with any process of any court or compelled to appear as a witness in any court unless Parliament is not in session, or the Speaker so satisfies that the office holder in question is not on his way to, attending at, or returning from any Parliament. The circular from His Lordship the Chief Justice ensured that during the remaining days of the first meeting of Parliament, honourable members and the Presidents of Parliament were not inundated with processes from the courts. On your behalf and on my part, I extended our gratitude to the Chief Justice for that singular intervention. As honourable members are aware, as far back as the 1969 Constitution, when these provisions were first introduced in our democracy, the 1968 Constitutional Commission report justified the need for parliamentary immunity from arrests and the service of court processes by maintaining that such immunity ensures members of Parliament are not distracted by arrest and detention while they are on their way to, attending at, or returning from any proceeding of Parliament. The Commission further noted that the immunity should not be made to cover serious offences such as treason, sedition, and felony, or to apply to alleged offences committed in flagrante delicto. The Commission proposed that civil or criminal processes issuing from the courts or place of Parliament could be served on members with the prior permission of the Speaker. These provisions were repeated in the 1979 and our current 1992 Constitution. Honourable members, without a doubt, the immunity from service of processes is necessary to prevent the use of such processes to impede the work of Parliament. This should, however, not be understood to mean that honourable members cannot be served at all with any processes from outside Parliament. Honourable members, as important as the privileges and immunities provided by the Constitution are to secure Parliament's role in our democracy, the Constitution also contemplates that the arms of government will be committed to ensuring that our practices promote a workable government and democracy. In this sense, the constitutional privileges and immunities must not be abused nor asserted to frustrate its very purpose of promoting our democracy. Honourable members, it is in this regard that I must bring to your attention the fact that the immunity enjoyed by the Speaker, members of Parliament, and Clerk to Parliament are not absolute anytime, anywhere, and any day. As such, when Parliament is not in session, or a member of Parliament is not on his way to, attending at, or returning from the business of Parliament, such a member may be served a court process and may appear as a witness in the court proceeding. It follows, therefore, that while Parliament is not in session or the Speaker has not certified that a member or clerk to Parliament is attending to the business of Parliament, a member of Parliament may evade service of court process or refuse to appear as a court summoned witness in the court proceeding. Any such act would amount to a violation of Articles 117 and 118 of the Constitution, and same would not be encouraged in this House. Let me emphasize again that parliamentary proceedings include parliamentary committee meetings and activities. I want to conclude by saying this. The legislature and the judiciary have a sacred duty to accord each other and reverence in consonance with the dignity and authority of each arm of government. Each arm is duty-bound to uphold the privileges and immunities accorded in the 1992 Constitution as an important component of the doctrine of separation of powers underpinning our Constitution. Flowing from the above, and in reference to the circular of the Chief Justice, I provide the following guidance to the House, to members of Parliament, to the clerk to Parliament, and to the general public. 1. That when Parliament is in session, there is a presumption in the normal course of business that a Speaker, Member of Parliament, or Clerk to Parliament is on his way to, attending at, or returning from proceedings of Parliament, and cannot be served a process from any court or place out of Parliament whilst the person is in motion. 2. That when a Speaker, Member of Parliament, or Clerk to Parliament is in the presence of Parliament, there is a presumption that the Speaker, Member of Parliament, or Clerk to Parliament is attending to a proceeding of Parliament and cannot be served a process from any court or place out of Parliament. 3. When Parliament is on recess, the presumption can be said to be rebuttable, and members of Parliament may be served a process from any court or place out of Parliament, whether the member is in the constituency, in a private office, outside Parliament, or at his or her residence. 4. That when Parliament is on recess and the Speaker or Member of Parliament or Clerk to Parliament is in the presence of Parliament, there is a presumption that the Speaker, Member of Parliament, or Clerk to Parliament is attending to the business of Parliament and cannot be served a process within the presence of Parliament. 5. That where a member is served a process from a court or place out of Parliament while the House is on recess, the member shall accept the process and immediately inform the Speaker whilst taking the necessary action arising out of the service. The court or place out of Parliament must also inform the Speaker of the service of the process. This is to give opportunity to the Speaker to exercise the responsibility imposed on him or her by Article 1182. 7. Where a member is attending to business of Parliament, such as committee meetings or activities during the recess, and the member is served a process from a court or placed out of Parliament, the member may respectfully direct the service of the process through the Speaker. It meant that the member will not accept the service. Direct the person trying to effect the service to see the Speaker of Parliament. 8. Where the official insists on serving the process on the member may notify the Speaker of the service. And where the Speaker has ascertained that the member is attending to the business of Parliament, the Speaker will direct that the process be returned to the registrar of the court in compliance with Article 117 of the Constitution. Where a member, that is 9, accepts service of a process and has entered appearance, the member is said to have become a party to an action and will thus not be covered by the immunity provided under Articles 117 and 118 of the 1992 Constitution, as rightly held by the learned Justice of the High Court in the case of the Republic versus and others, 2019 case, unreported. And 10, despite this ruling, a practice is developing between the judiciary and the legislature out of mutual respect, where the courts accept requests from Parliament on dates and times that will not clash with a plenary sitting of Parliament. And on a number of occasions, the courts have accepted the letter from Mr. Speaker for adjournment of matters pending in courts, subject to the convenience of the court, due to the fact that honorable members are attending to critical or urgent business of the House. This practice, I believe, will continue to guide this gray area of the Constitution. 11. Honorable members, I urge you all to accord the members of the judiciary and the judicial service the utmost respect, decency, and decorum they deserve. It has taken a long period of history. It has taken experiential learning, which was full of lessons and effort to achieve a cordial and harmonious relationship between the judiciary and the legislature. We should not treasure that cordial relationship. We should treasure that cordial relationship and desist from jeopardizing it with actions or inactions which are not well thought through. And the last, I trust that this statement provides a guide to ensure that these peculiar rights enjoyed by the House collectively and by members individually, as stated in the Constitution, are respected and due care is taken not to impede or obstruct the administration of justice in the Republic. Judges and judicial officers must be free to administer justice without let or hindrance, ill will, or affection. I want to thank honorable members for your attention, but I have taken time to state these principles in consultation with the judiciary. And want this to be given the highest publication for the guidance of the public, and particularly the police service, as to how to conduct their activities when it comes to members of parliament. As I sit here, I gathered information that some members were arrested, were prosecuted, or caught without any notice to the Speaker. This, even when a member is alleged to have committed an offense and being investigated, the Speaker must be given notice. Because some of the rights that we have are termed immunities, and those immunities are absolute. For example, in Parliament here, during the course of plenary, whatever you say here is absolutely protected by law, and you are immune from any process outside Parliament. And that is why the Speaker's certificate and intervention are necessary, because the Speaker will have to be opportunity to know why the member is being investigated or arrested. And when it's one of the absolute immunities, the intervention of the Speaker will stop, abate, or prevent from being prosecuted. But I'm aware some of our members are before court now without notice to the Speaker. And I'm taking action to make sure that these things come to my notice, and we will take action to make sure that members are protected to perform their constitutional duties. We need members of Parliament for good reason. There are critical decisions that are to be taken in some days where we need not less than 2/3 of members' approval before they can pass through. And so if we allow the law enforcement bodies to pick members at will and detain them or interrogate them outside plenary sessions, it will affect the business of the House. And not only the business of the House, the business of government and the progress of our nation. And so even though members of Parliament are not above the law, we really pass the law, and we must show leadership in the enforcement and application of the law. We are at the same time giving special rights that protect us, because we are not here as individuals. We are here carrying the mandate of millions of Ghanaians. And that is why the leadership position, like His Excellency the President, is giving those, and these must be respected by all. I don't want the future to hear or receive anything that is in complete disobedience to this statement that I have made. I will take serious view of it, and the House will apply its full force to make sure that our democracy works in accordance with the rule of the law. I thank all of you for your attention. I will give opportunity if leadership want to make comments on this statement, because it's a very important. So please, leadership, I'll start with minority leader. Mr. Speaker, let me thank for a very succinct and lucid position, which in my view is seeking to strengthen the checks and balances within the meaning of the separation of powers envisaged in the 1992 Constitution between the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. I'm particularly happy that you have stated emphatically that this House and yourself have no intention to obstruct the administration of justice, but insisting that the letter and spirit of the Constitution in Article 117 and 118 is respected, that no process is served on the Speaker, a member of Parliament, the Clerk of Parliament, whilst we are performing our duties. Mr. Speaker, I do not intend to comment much because even parliamentary jurisprudence would have raised other critical and fundamental questions as to when a member is in the constituency, he is still exercising a function as a representative of the people in the discharge of some duties to the person in the constituency. When a member of parliament is undertaking on behalf of parliament at the level of the committee, that also imposes an onerous responsibility on that member of parliament. But certainly, Mr. Speaker, there must be limitations to our quest for our immunity and privileges to be respected. We certainly are not above the law. We are entitled to be subjected to due process of the law at all times. But the judiciary, as an organ of government, which is the independent adjudicator, must respect the legislature and respect the men and women elected. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, it is our pride that apart from the president, we are the only elected representatives of the people. That is why sometimes, Mr. Speaker, I find it even worrying when judges debate whether a member of parliament should be admitted to bail or not. Just the title of member of parliament, representative of the people, qualifies a member of parliament, in my view, reading the law, to self-recognizance bail. Because, Mr. Speaker, I'm minded of some ruling of our court that the denial of bail should not ever be used as a punishment. That is the position of the court on this matter. So, Mr. Speaker, I should thank you for a very lucid and succinct judgment. I trust that in the interest of cooperation and in the interest of safeguarding the limitations of our powers and mandate as defined in Article 57, 58 for the Executive, Article 93 for the Judiciary, 125 to 144, 125 to 144 of the Judiciary, and 93 to 112 of the Constitution for the Legislature, you are only seeking respect, that we respect the principle and notion of separation of powers and the checks and balances that are envisaged so that we will govern well, and that no other organ of state will exercise excess of power over the other. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, majority bench.
Speaker, let me begin by commending your outfit. Ordinarily, one would not wish to comment on such a well-researched statement, or if you like, ruling, which the Speaker himself has taken time to put together. The Speaker, you are a respected lawyer and also a very respected legislator. You've seen it all. And for you to have a cause and a reason to put these matters in context, particularly in the form of a statement to be delivered on the floor, there must be a reason for it. Fact be told, I'm not too old in this chamber, but I think many of us here have had instance to complain one way or the other about these privileges as a spouse and as stipulated in law, especially in practicality when these provisions in the law are enforced and the challenges that we go through. So, Speaker, you couldn't have said it better, and you nailed it right on the head, and it's important that we take it from here, we respected all the parameters and the variables involved, especially all the states. And Speaker, you couldn't have said it better when you mentioned specifically the Ghana Police Service, who comes in wake, especially in the enforcement of the law, that these matters would have to be taken in good stride. And then I want to commend you particularly for the correspondence, the prior correspondence you've had with the Chief Justice and the outfit of the judiciary in seeking to put matters in proper context. Fact be told, we are not seeking for any special consideration to be given to members of parliament because we are special breeds of Ghanaians. No. We are respecting the fundamental provisions of our law. Fact be told, we must reflect the law. And members of parliament must reflect the true jurisprudence of the law. So it is only fair that we should set the rightful example for others to follow. Speaker, the three arms of government are distinct. It's identified by law. They are distinct, but they are supposed to play a complementary role. And it's important we all bring our minds to this. The provisions in Article 117 and Article 118 is clear. We don't need any interpreter or interpretation from the law court. These things are clear. And over the years, the interpretation of it has become quite fundamental, and it is known. So it is something that we don't have to hassle about. Speaker, as you narrated instances where some members who are involved in the enforcement of the law, practitioners of the law, and then members of parliament have gone through a number of instances, and you've taken your time to narrate these instances. Some of them are quite regrettable. Continue on this lane forever. It's important this matter has come up, but I think that the Public Relations Department of Parliament as a corporate entity would have to take this matter up. We cannot continuously be media to be talking about this and also educating the public. We have also an onerous responsibility to take this matter up, to educate the general public, for them to come appreciate the nuance involved in all these provisions that are found in the law. I think that this is a very important day for us as Parliament, as an institution. It's an important day for us as Ghanaians, for us to come to appreciate all these matters. Many occasions, these matters have come up in the media, and people have failed to appreciate it in all its nuance, and have tend to easily conclude that, well, members of parliament are demanding for some special treatment. It is not the case. It is the case of respecting the provisions of our constitution and also reflecting the true jurisprudence of the law. So I want to thank you for this important statement, and I'm very confident that the media will take this matter up, and as we go into the day, it will become a subject of discussion for the generality of the people of this country to come to appreciate what the matters are indeed are. Africa.
Honorable members, once again, I thank you for your attention. This is really a very serious issue, and I want all of you to show leadership in this matter. Let's conduct ourselves as honorable members of parliament, because you are embodiment of millions of people, and the mandate of those people reside in you. The mandate of the state, the government, resides in the president. But the people are looking up to us. And that is why they elect us, to make sure that the resources that are at the disposal of His Excellency the President are utilized in such a way that it improves the lives of our people. So it's an onerous responsibility. And that is why these rights we refer to as privileges and immunities are accorded members of parliament. Never forget that even when His Excellency the President is elected, he is sworn in parliament before members of parliament. And he is sworn by the Chief Justice on the invitation of parliament to do so. The Speaker himself is sworn in parliament by the Chief Justice. And so when you talk about democracy, the most important arm of government in a democracy is the institution of parliament, the legislature. Nobody else is sworn anywhere as a leader of the arm except the independence of the judiciary, which is guaranteed. The Chief Justice is not sworn in parliament before members of parliament. That is to guarantee the independence of the judiciary. But the Chief Justice, who is the head of the judiciary, responds to the invitation of parliament to perform the duty of the President and the Speaker in parliament before members of parliament. That symbolic act, that concept must not be lost in us as a nation. Where you have a weak parliament, democracy also becomes weak. And the people are let loose. The rights, the human rights and freedoms are not respected. So please, let's take up the issue and work seriously to make sure that we go according to the constitutional imperatives and the dictates of the rule of law. With this, I thank you once again, and we'll move on to the next item on the order paper, which is item 3, correction of votes and proceedings and official reports. We don't have copies of any official report, but I think that members will have a copy of the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 8th June 2021. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. On the copy that I have, there is no page 5. I don't know whether members have page 5. There is page 5. All right, page 5. Page 6. Page 7. 8. Yes, Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, item 4, number 2, a champion Brian. He was present on page 8, item 4, number 2, a champion day in the chamber, but is marked absent here.
The issue you raised is that Honorable Brian Achampon was present in Parliament yesterday.
Yes, please.
But he's been marked absent.
Yes, please.
Table office, kindly take note.
Thank you.
Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16. Page 17. Page 18. Page 19. Page 20. Honorable members, in the absence of any further corrections, the vote and proceedings of the 9th sitting of the second meeting of the first session held on Tuesday, 8th June 2021, as corrected, are adopted as a true record of proceedings. We have as item 4 questions. There are a few, in fact, 2 urgent questions to be answered by the Minister for Food and Agriculture. And so we'll take that before we move to statements. There are a few statements to be made by members. So question number 4A, standing in the name of Mr. Eric Afol, the Member of Parliament for Amenfi West. Honorable Member, you may now ask your question.
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Food and Agriculture when the government will release money to pay the affected cocoa farmers whose farms have been engaged by the Ghana Cocoa Board for the program of rehabilitation of overaged cocoa farms in Ghana, having regard to the season. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister for Agric, Food and Agric.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Kokomo targeted into 1,400 hectares of diseased cocoa farms for rehabilitation with financing from the African Development Bank and the Credit Suisse of Switzerland. The rehabilitation entails treatment and replanting of cocoa affected by the cocoa swollen shoot virus disease. In the current year 2021, Cocoa Board has covered a total of 22,375.25 hectares of cocoa farms under the rehabilitation program. A total amount of 10,310,681 Series 54 pesos has been paid to 11,289 affected farmers. Equally, 410 landowners, the total land size of 545.48 hectares of cocoa farms have been compensated with an amount of 454,480 Ghana cedis at the time of reporting. Still underway to pay additional landowners in due course. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture fully appreciates that a delay in payment of compensation to farms under the rehabilitation program endanger mistrust. This could adversely affect program implementation and the sustenance of the cocoa industry. Mindful of this, my ministry is committed to ensuring that payment of compensations are on time and made to deserving farmers. To achieve this, Mr. Speaker, there should be demonstrated transparency and due diligence for compensation payments. For purposes of transparency and proper scrutiny to determine eligibility and proper application of the facility, affected farmers have been briefed about the necessary processes precedent for paying their benefits. These are 7 items. Number 1, the measurement of treated farms at the district level with GPS to establish farm area affected for rehabilitation. Number 2, verification at the district cartography department to ensure that the farm is within a cocoa swollen shoot virus disease outbreak area. Number 3, authentication of information by district cocoa officers for the attention of the regional officers. Number 4, verification of documents from district cocoa officers by regional team to confirm existence of a treated cocoa farm using monitoring software to avoid duplication. Number 5, submission of authenticated documents to Cocoa Board head office for payment. Number 6, verification of document by head office team to confirm existence of the treated farms as a condition for initiating the payment process. Mr. Speaker, and finally, authentication of document by Executive Director of Cocoa Health and Extension Division of Cocoa Board prior to authorization of payment to affected farmers. Mr. Speaker, these are the processes that has to go through before any farmer is paid. It may sound cumbersome, but it's important that we go through this process to ensure that farmers are duly paid. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Member, do you have any supplementary questions?
Yes, Honourable Speaker. I have two supplementary questions. One, can the minister give us the estimated time when the payment is? Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, I could barely hear the question.
Please, Honorable Member, may you repeat the question?
Speaker, I would like to know from the minister if you can give us the estimated time when payment will be made to the farmers, the affected farmers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Going through the 7 steps of verification takes some time because we are talking about 3 different sets of verification to ensure that the right farmer is paid what is due to him. So I will have to check from Cocoa Board how many weeks or days the whole process takes from cutting the trees on the farm and when the farmer actually gets paid. But as we said, the half of the amount due to the 22,000, 11,000 affected farmers have been paid as we speak today. Thank you.
Yes, any further supplementary?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this program is purely investment venture taken by the Ghana Cocoa Board, for that matter, the government. I would like to know from the minister the expected returns that will accrue to the nation after this program. Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure the Member of Parliament is aware of the devastation being caused by the swollen shoe disease, especially in Western North region, where production of cocoa has dropped by more than half in the last 5 years. Obviously, if we were to get back from the 350,000 metric tons of cocoa that region alone, and which has now dropped to less than 200,000, then at least we will be adding 150,000 metric tons back to where it was before the devastation. I cannot give a specific figure, but if you multiply 150,000 metric tons of gains from this program for the Western North alone, at today's world price of $2,300 per metric ton, that should give you an idea the benefit to this country for the program. Thank you.
Yes, Majority Chief Whip.
Speaker, I'm grateful. I'd like to know from Minister the methodology adopted in this rehabilitation exercise, whether it is not skewed, and then whether it was broad-based and all-encompassing. Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The devastation, as I just mentioned, is regional-wise, and it's the eye of the storm is the Western North region, but it goes as far as the Ashanti region, Eastern region, Central region. And this is a virus, like what we are experiencing as human beings, the COVID. Very dangerous. It spreads exponentially, and if you leave one tree unattended, it will come back to haunt you. So the staff on the ground, Cocoa Board staff on the ground, who are trained to diagnose the trees that have been affected, regardless of ownership or whatever have accurate data as to where this disease is prevailing. And the scheme is to go from, in a manner, from one area to the other, cutting the trees and replanting with new hybrid seedlings. And not only that, also supplying the farmers with shade trees and plantain trees to give shade to the seedlings. And this is being done across board. So we are hoping that in the next 4 or 5 years, or maybe even 3 or 4 years, we would have been able to cut out all the disease trees across this country with newly replanted high-yielding varieties. That is the method that is being used without any discrimination. In fact, the new feature of this rehabilitation is to also pay the landowners, because as you know, especially in the Western region, the landowners are not necessarily the same as the operators. There are people from across the country who have come to Western region for the program, and these farmers don't own the land that they are occupying. So in order not to bring any strain between the landowners and the farmers, compensation is also paid to the landowners so the farmers can go about their work in peace. Thank you.
You want another supplementary?
Speaker, if you indulge me, this will be the last.
Well, you are not entitled to more than one. But being a leader, yes, I'll indulge you.
Speaker, I appreciate it. I'd like to find out from the minister, first of all, the cutting down of cocoa trees has some risks inherent. I don't know if this is a novelty. Have we had this before? And if it is the case, are we drawing any good lessons from what we've had in times past, Minister?
Mr. Speaker, this country has a long history of the cocoa swollen shoot virus. The first incident was as far back as the early 1900s, and that was very, very limited. It reared its head again in the 1930s in a much stronger and wider area, and that was also, we managed to control that. In the early 60s, it came back with a vengeance in the eastern region, and with the help of the World Bank, in the eastern region was the eye of the storm. We were able to control that until now, in the last 10 years, that there was evidence of this disease in the western region, and instead of attacking the disease right from the beginning, it was allowed to spread. It was allowed to spread because the compensation which should be paid to farmers for the 3 or 4 years that they will lose their crop was withdrawn. And therefore farmers, if he was harvesting 20 pods per tree and was only doing 5, it was better to have the 5 than to have nothing at all for 3 years. So that was one of the reasons which led to the rapid spread of the disease. And since the coming of the Kufuor government, arrangements, negotiations were entered into with the African Development Bank to raise $600 million, not only to control the disease, but also to bring the industry up to speed with processing of cocoa, with the building of warehouses in order to store and control the amounts that we sell out to the rest of the world. And of course, for disease control and overage trees. I mean, 40% of Ghana's cocoa capacity is affected by the virus disease. And not only that, also overage trees, 30, 40 years old, 50-year-old trees, which were not virtually stopped yielding. So through this program, We are replacing all these overaged and diseased trees, and Ghana will be stronger again with production hopefully going up in response to this massive effort in the cocoa industry. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Kofi Adams.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to find out from the Minister whether the program is elimination of diseased cocoa trees or overaged cocoa trees, or overaged and diseased, because in his answer he was focusing much on disease, and that he mentioned some regions. I did not hear any mention of Oti region, which is also a cocoa growing region.
Minister.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'm emphasizing Western North, and I acknowledge that the disease has spread to other regions. But Western North is what I call the eye of the storm. If you can lose half of your production in a matter of years, few years, then as a major industry in Ghana, we are in trouble. So yes, wherever the disease is found, we are going to pursue them. I mean, the whole country has been mapped out to show exactly the districts that the disease is rearing its head. So that is the problem. Overaged and diseased trees, not only CVS, not only the virus, there are other diseases. In all, Ghana's capacity, we have about 1.8 million hectares under cocoa. 40% of it, that area, is either overaged or diseased in terms of the capacity. And the project is to ensure that this 40% is brought back by removing the virus, the disease virus trees, by cutting out old age trees, 30, 40, 50-year-old trees, and replanting with a new hybrid which has been developed by our own scientists at Cocoa Research Institute in Tafo. So that is the program. So whether in OT or in the Volta region, what's grown, we know the trees which have been affected. Either they are too old or they have diseases. And we are going after these by the program. So OT is not left out at all. Neither will any other region which is growing cocoa in this country, which has diseased trees and overaged trees. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Most grateful, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, after cutting down the cocoa trees, the farmers are supposed to plant trees before the plantain suckers and then the cocoa itself. The Speaker, is the minister aware that those trees are not available, and therefore after cutting the cocoa trees, it takes a lot of months, and then the farms also grow weedy? Thank you.
Yes, Speaker. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I must confess, I didn't catch half of what he said, but I don't want him to repeat himself. I just try and answer what I heard, unless he wants to.
His question was that, are you aware, after the cutting down of the cocoa trees, the farmers don't get the seedlings to plant, and it takes a long time, and the farms go weedy? Are you aware of that?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very surprised that Honorable Akando will be saying that the program, as we have decided, is not going according to plan. Because obviously, we have made provision for. I'm not aware. That's what I'm saying. I'm not aware, and I'm surprised that the implication of the question is that the program is not going according to plan. But I can assure this House, Mr. Speaker, that the program is going very well. We've had experience of dealing with this disease. We have experts, top experts, global experts here in Ghana dealing with the issue, and we are confident that very soon we will be able to achieve our aim of resolving the issue of the disease and overage trees. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, what you are telling the House is that you are not aware of what he has stated. What you are aware of is that there are enough seedlings, and that immediately after the cutting down of the diseased cocoa trees, there are enough seedlings to replant. There is no delay in getting that done, because that was the key issue he raised.
Mr. Speaker, the issue is to do with immediate payment after we've cut the tree and replanted it with the cocoa seedlings and the plantain suckers. The issue is not about inadequate number of seedlings to replant. That is not the case. I mean, you go to the source of it, which is the Cocoa Health Organization, all over the country, loads and loads of seedlings waiting to be replanted, to replant in place of the diseased trees. So I am not at all, this is the first time I'm even hearing that there's shortage of seedlings in the project areas. No, that's not my knowledge. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, we move to the second question, which stands in the name of Mr. Idik Kofi Adams, the Member of Parliament for Buen. Honorable Member, you may ask your question now.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Food and Agriculture what measures the industry will put in place so that delays in payment for cocoa beans purchased by cocoa boss licensed buying companies will not recur in subsequent crop seasons. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Ghana Cocoa Board raised $1.3 billion US syndicated loan facility for the 2020-2021 cocoa purchasing operations and related activities. The facility was no different in value from the previous seasons, that is 2017-2018, 2018-2019, and 2019-2020, even though under different payment conditions. The emergence and prevalence of the COVID-19 pandemic adversely affected Cocoa Board efforts to effectively roll out a strategy for managing the loan facility, as was the case in the previous 3 seasons. The pandemic also made it difficult for Cocoa Board to effect contract for drawing down the loan facility expeditiously. Unlike previous years, when the board drew down the facility on 3 occasions from October to December each year, 4 drawdowns were made in bits from October 2020 to February 2021. We should go on record that the amount drawn down in 2020-2021 season were utilized at a faster rate due to the 28% increase in producer price of cocoa. Specifically, the producer price increased from 8,240 Ghana cedis per ton, metric ton, in 2019-2020 to 10,500 560 cedis per metric ton in the current year, 2020-2021. The margins for buyers and hauliers, which relate to cocoa purchasing operations, also increased by 5% for the current 2020-2021 season. Mr. Speaker, it is important to add that the syndicated loan raised by Cocoa Board supports only about 70% of the cocoa purchasing and related operations. It makes up the difference with proceeds from the sale of non-collateralized crop. Regrettably, the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the international market made it difficult for Cocoa Board to establish and deliver non-collateralized contracts to support the purchasing operations on a timely basis. This explains why there has been some delays in the payment of cocoa farmers during the early part of the season. To forestall a recurrence, the following actions have been taken. Number one, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture has endorsed Cocoa Board's proposal to borrow an amount of 1.5 billion for the 2021-2022 cocoa crop compared to the 1.3 billion which was borrowed in the preceding year. This is to ensure availability of funding to cover the increase in the farm gate price. Number two, management of Cocoa Board has been tackles and delivery strategy to ensure timely drawdown of the loan amount to pay farmers. Mindful that about 65 to 70% of cocoa purchases take place between October and December each year.
Honorable Minister, just a moment. The second Deputy Speaker to take the chair. You may continue now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Management of cocoa an internal government fund that will be used to support cocoa purchasing operations to supplement drawdowns of the syndicated loan. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, committed efforts are being made to address all the genuine concerns in the cocoa industry, especially delayed payments to farmers. Ministry of Food and Agriculture will continue to work closely with Cocoa Board and exercise effective oversight on the sector to ensure a very responsive, attractive, and resilient. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, may go on.
Thank you. From the Minister's answers, it suggests that the increase in the producer price of cocoa in a way affected utilization of the funds that came in. Is it to suggest that at the time the Cocoa Board went out for the syndicated facility, they did not factor the year's increase in producer price and therefore went for the same amount as they did in previous years? And is he assuring us that in future, before going out for the syndicated facility, you will factor all the necessary increments before stepping out there to sign on to contracts and then to raise funds to pay for these farmers? Since cocoa is a regulated industry and farmers cannot sell their beans to any other person other than the licensed buying companies. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Fixing producer price and arranging a loan to buy an incoming crop are two different activities. Because before you fix the producer price, you have to be sure of the trend in the world market. So you cannot do the two at the same time. At the moment, Cocoa Board is preparing to go to the market to borrow 1.5 billion compared to the 1.3 billion. So in other words, we are taking account of the increase invariably in that. But the period of fixing the producer price is different from the negotiations. It takes longer. This is an international transaction. So it takes six months to actually even conclude on things. But in the meantime, you would have made certain assumptions, which when it comes to it, may not be the case. So it is more or less, it is not a science. It's by practice. Cocoa Board has been around since 1947. And they've done this all these years. So it is not practicable to say that you are going to align your loan request with your producer price, because the two come at different times. Although we see how best you can take account of, for instance, as I just said, we are increasing this year's loan requirement by $200 million, from 1.3 million to 1.5 million dollars. You have to also take account of the size of the crop. All these are unknown factors that you can only give a good professional estimate. At the end of the day, it may happen or it may not happen. This is why we have these challenges as we proceed the season. But I can assure you that we are very much aware of the strategic impact. Without a farmer, there will be no cocoa industry. So our effort is to ensure that everything goes well. But once you plan in terms of the implementation, there are other external factors which may come to disrupt what you're planning. So there has been, I recognize that there has been problems of delays in payments, and I think I came here to assure the House that at the time, by the end of December, all the outstanding, and indeed that happened. But then, of course, the season is still on as we speak, and it will come to an end in September. So we have these problems. But I can assure this House that this government is determined to protect the interests of our farmers, and will do everything to make sure that cocoa which farmers bring to the market is paid for as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, honourable member.
My final follow-up question. Again, listening to the minister, he raised concerns about some arrangements that Cocoa Board had with some cocoa processing companies, and so COVID came in and it affected those purchases and those payments. Is he considering, together with his colleague Minister for Trade and Industry, to expand local processing and consumption, so that in situations such as COVID, the local consumption and the local utilization could at least make up a significant percentage to reduce this impact it has on the financial arrangement that ultimately affects the farmer? Because I've heard of a number of 1B, 1F. I've not heard anything in relation to cocoa. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
I'm sure that the honourable minister, the honourable member for Buem is not a stranger in Jerusalem. The Akufo-Addo government is talking about Ghana beyond 8, and cocoa is in the lead for that. It's in the lead for that in the sense that we want to be able to process all our cocoa beans if possible and as soon as possible. So we are making a lot of effort for that to happen. I myself have been involved in going around the globe in the non-traditional areas like China, South Africa, Morocco, promoting Ghana's processed cocoa. So I can assure him that that program is on, and the government of Akufo-Addo is very serious about this adding value to our own product and moving away from the Gettysburg colonial structure of just exporting beans from this country. So that is what I can say in answer to your question. The other aspect of it is that the promotion of cocoa consumption in Ghana is also something that I'm sure maybe the member of parliament may not, but even we are now giving chocolate to school children just to catch them young, for them to develop the taste for cocoa consumption, and promoting domestic consumption in a lot of different ways in a manner which has not been done for many, many years. So we are very much also on the ball in promoting local consumption of our own chocolate. And of course, you've heard on the 14th of February, it's now become famous in Ghana that people buy chocolate for their loved ones and so on, and that chocolate is made in Ghana. These are all strategies that we are adopting to promote domestic consumption of cocoa, in addition to adding value and making sure that most of our cocoa harvested in Ghana leave these shores with value addition rather than the traditional cocoa beans. Thank you.
Honorable, you've had 3 supplementary questions. Honorable, let me give the chance to Honorable Akando for a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the minister's answer, he made mention of the fact that Ghana government is supplying chocolate to the schools in this country. Mr. Speaker, can the minister mention a single school in this country where this is done?
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to bring a list of schools.
Hello, Honorable Kando, please. Minister, you're on the floor.
I'm surprised that the other side is saying when. It will come like yesterday, so don't worry, it will be there.
The question is answered. He said he's going to supply this house the list of schools that are benefiting from. Minister, will be mindful to give us a time frame.
Mr. Speaker, I'll have to consult Cocoa House to find when that can be done. I cannot stand here and say it will come, but as soon as possible, it will be available. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I want to ask the Minister, what is the specific cost for the delayed payment for this season? And to know from him, what is the compensatory arrangement made to alleviate the sufferings of these poor cocoa farmers arising out of the delayed payment, please?
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I couldn't hear. You could please repeat that question.
Honourable Member, may you repeat the question, please?
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I'm asking that what is the specific cost for the delayed payment for this season? What is the reason? The cost of delay in the payment. Again, the delayed payment. The cost, the reason. Exactly. And 2, are there any compensatory arrangements for these poor cocoa farmers arising out of the delayed payment? Cocoa farmers.
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I still can't get the question.
Mr. Speaker, I want to know the reason for this delayed payment for the season. Why is the delayed payment happening? Exactly. And two, are they delaying the payment? You are not paying the farmers, the cocoa farmers for.
Minister, are you okay?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I've already under the first question. This is to do with anyway. So basically, we are saying in the statement that I've read, Mr. Speaker, we are saying that this delay in paying the farmers, in paying the LBCs to pay the farmers, was partly because of the increase in producer price by 28%. So that meant that very quickly we ran out of funds before the season ended. And secondly, we are also saying that the COVID delayed the amount of cocoa that we could sell on the international market because contracts were not coming. Economies were shut. Chocolate was not being bought. So they were not buying as much beans as possible. So normally, by the end of December, we would have sold forward all our crop. But until February, we still had stocks that were not going because of the COVID. So all these factors led to what happened. These are one-off historical factors, and we didn't have any control over that. That's the answer.
Honourable Member, supplementary question. You only have one chance, please. Honourable Member for Ho Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All these issues relate to the finances of the Cocoa Board. I am holding the Cocoa Board law, PNDC Law 81 of 1984 in my hand. And from sections 28 to 31, the law talks about the finances of the board. One of which is that the books and accounts of the board shall, within 3 months after the end of each financial year of the board, be audited by the Auditor General. I want to find out from the minister whether he has got audited accounts of Cocoa Board for the past few years and whether they have been submitted to the appropriate authorities.
Honourable Majority Whip, do you want to?
Speaker, the Honourable Kodo is a senior member of this House. And he knows that is a substantive question and he must come properly. So I'm drawing the Speaker's attention. No, you will not. Clearly,
Honourable Majority Whip.
Clearly, that question cannot.
Just ask the minister to answer. If it is not, he is not ready, so that it comes out with the other report, if that's what they are seeking for.
Speaker, with the greatest of respect, that is a substantive question. And it is not. It is
so
not a
that is what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. Just ask the Mr. Leave it for the minister to tell us. If he's not ready for that particular question, then we can reschedule for another time. So, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Minister, if you can tell us something.
The Speaker, I agree with the acting leader side. This is something that needs to be looked at. Mr. Speaker, as you know, I came here for 2 questions. Have been comprehensively dealt with. This is a new factor, and I need to consult with Ghana Cocoa Board for those answers. And therefore, if the member is very keen for an answer, he should come properly by asking the question, and I'll come and answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Yes, Honorable Minority Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in answering an earlier question about the delay in paying cocoa farmers for their produce by the LBCs, he acknowledged the delay and assured the House that steps have been taken to rectify the situation. But there was a second leg of that question, whether the ministry, and for that matter, Cocoa Board, is planning to compensate the farmers for the delay of payment on their produce that have been taken by the LBCs. The minister, we didn't hear him say anything about that, whether there's any plan to compensate them for the long delay in holding their produce without payment.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the question that I have in my hand does not talk about asking for compensation. It says, and I quote, will put in place, to ask the Minister for Food and Agriculture, the measures the ministry will put in place so that delays in payment for cocoa beans purchase will not recur in subsequent crop years. It doesn't say compensation. Yeah, but the supplementary question, I have no knowledge of any precedents where delays in payment to farmers are compensated. The thing is to make sure that between the delivery of the produce to the buying company and to the farmer, the gap is reduced to the minimum. There's no question of compensation. I've never heard this ever. So I don't think that is an issue here. The issue is to make sure that farmers are paid in reasonable time for their produce. Thank you.
Yes, honorable members. The minister was brought to this house to answer urgent questions. I believe the supplementary questions are becoming too many. And therefore, I would like, unless, leader, you want to?
With your indulgence, as part of the minister's answers, he has said that the Cocoa Board is built on internal revolving fund. And this is scheme towards compensating the draw on the syndicated loan. I wish to know from the minister, how feasible is this effort and where has it gotten to up to this stage?
Yes, honorable minister, and this will be the last question.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I did mention about the internal revolving fund as one of several initiatives to ensure that there's no recurrence of delayed payments in the coming seasons. So yes, arrangements are being made on each one of these items. One, of course, is to increase the loan component then to $1.5 billion in the coming season, the revolving fund and other arrangements that we want to put in place to ensure that farmers get paid as quickly as possible once their harvest is surrendered to the LBCs. The actual nature of it is details are being worked out, and I'm sure that before the season starts in October, as the 2021-2022 season starts, we'll have all the arrangements in place to ensure that we have a smooth, much smoother marketing year than the one we are in at the moment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, the Minister for Food and Agriculture has been gracious to the House. He was invited to this House to answer urgent questions, and I believe he has done just that. So, Honorable Minister, we thank you very much for attending upon the House to respond to these urgent questions. You are therefore discharged. Honorable members, on the other paper, we go to item number 5. That's statements. Leader, you.
Speaker, with your leave, if we may take item 6.2, after which we'll come back to item 5. Thank you.
Item number
6A2.
First presentation of papers. 6A by the Honorable Majority Leader.
Speaker, I sought your leave to lay item 6AII, rather.
Very well. So, item 6AI. Okay. Item 6AI.
Proposed formula for the distribution of the Ghana Education Trust Fund, GET Fund, for the year 2021.
The report has been duly presented. It is referred to the Committee of the Whole for consideration and report. Six AIII.
Speaker, all the other items are not ready, so if we may go back to item 5 or statement.
Very well. Statement, item number 5 on the other paper. We have 2 statements that has been admitted by the Speaker. And the first one will follow that which is on cocoa. And is on utilization of cocoa byproducts as a source of raw materials for rural industrialization in Ghana. And this statement was put up by a member for Offenso South, Honorable Isaac Yao Opoku. Honorable member, you may take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for granting me the opportunity to make a statement on the utilization of cocoa byproducts. Mr. Speaker, may I first of all pay tribute to the man Tete Kwashi of blessed memory, who made it all possible for bringing seeds of cocoa from faraway Fernando Po, now Equatorial Guinea, to be planted at Mampong Ekwapim in the eastern region. Mr. Speaker, since cocoa was first introduced into the country in 1879, it has over the years been cultivated mainly for its beans and the rest of the fresh fruit discarded. Mr. Speaker, the cocoa pod has 3 main components. That is the bean, pulp juice, also referred to as sweatings, and the pod husk. Mr. Speaker, the pod husk alone forms about 67% by weight of the fresh pod, the bean by about 20%, and the sweatings by about 13%. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, for every ton of beans exported or sold, approximately 4 tons of the resulting byproduct go waste. Mr. Speaker, the Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana has conducted extensive research into the use of these byproducts with some amazing results. Mr. Speaker, some incredible array of quality products have been developed from the otherwise waste materials. And Mr. Speaker, with your kind permission, I want to show members samples of some of the products developed by Cocoa Research. Mr. Speaker, we have cocoa wine here, nicely bottled. We also have cocoa gin, also from the cocoa waste. We also have cocoa bitters, cocoa root bitters. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, we have cocoa brandy. Mr. Speaker, we also have cocoa vinegar. We also have cocoa. Mr. Speaker, we also have cocoa. We also have cocoa butter alata semina. We also have cocoa body pomade. We also have cocoa butter soap. We also have cocoa samina shower gel. And yes, Mr. Speaker, we also have animal feed from the byproducts, fertilizers, and antioxidants. Mr. Speaker, it is gratifying to know that similar products have also been developed from the other mandated crops, that is shea, cashew, coffee, and cola. Mr. Speaker, this noble institution, Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana, Cocoa Board, therefore deserves commendation. No wonder, Mr. Speaker, the new product unit of the Institute has won 3 prestigious awards in recent years. That is Margaret Ofecook Annual Award, Award for Innovation in Cocoa Industry, Research and Development Project of the Year Award, Ghana Cocoa Awards 2019, Women of Excellence Research Category, Ghana Cocoa Awards 2020. Mr. Speaker, the sweetings which is extracted from the fresh cocoa beans is rich in sugars, minerals, and vitamins, and serve as raw material for the production of quality wine, whiskey, and brandy. The same sweetings, Mr. Speaker, can also be used for production of vinegar and marmalade. Mr. Speaker, Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana has also shown that pectin from cocoa sweetings is of high grade and similar to lemon and apple pectin of commerce. This pectin is extracted by precipitating with alcohol from the sweetings and can be used for pharmaceutical, cosmetic, and food products. Mr. Speaker, the cocoa pod huts, on the other hand, can also be used in animal feed. In a livestock feeding trial, Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana, in collaboration with the Animal Science Departments of the University of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and the Animal Research Institute of CSIR, concluded that cocoa pod huts can constitute up to 15% of feed ration for poultry, 25% of pig ration, and up to 60% of ration for sheep, goat, rabbits, and cattle. Mr. Speaker, the same cocoa pod huts is a traditional source of alkaline and can be used for the manufacturing of liquid soap, soft soap, and fertilizers. Right Honorable Speaker, the byproduct of cocoa can also be used for natural antioxidants. Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana has again demonstrated that the byproducts, which includes cocoa nibs, powder and shell, produce antioxidants, which is extracted using methanol, petroleum ether, and chloroform as solvents. Mr. Speaker, cocoa is known for its aphrodisiac properties. And Mr. Speaker, those who do consume raw cocoa powder, that is the royal cocoa, will pay ample testimony. Mr. Speaker, Cocoa Research Institute has again developed another product, cocoa bitters, from cocoa alcohol and cocoa roots, which contain even higher aphrodisiac properties. This product, Mr. Speaker, has been tested and proven to be safe for consumption by the Center for Plant Medicine at Mampon, Ekwapim. Mr. Speaker, it is worthy to note that all these products from cocoa waste have been assessed in terms of their quality, in terms of their texture, in terms of their appearance, and in terms of their shelf life. Mr. Speaker, 6 of these products have passed quality assessment of Ghana Standards Authority and have been duly registered with the Food and Drugs Authority. The remaining ones, Mr. Speaker, are at various stages of registration. Mr. Speaker, the products have also been assessed and found to be commercially viable. From pilot scale production and marketing, Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana has reported that the products have promising internal and external markets. Mr. Speaker, research plays a very important part in the development of any nation. Unfortunately, however, the link between research and industry is not well established in this country. Consequently, Mr. Speaker, valuable research findings remain in theses, annual reports, scientific journals, and the like. It is a fact, however, that the outcome of some of these research represents substantial business opportunities. A case in point is the development of a range of soap, beauty products, soft drink, alcoholic beverages from the byproducts. Right Honorable Speaker, one of the major challenges of this country is the creation of jobs. Fortunately, cocoa does well in 10 out of the 17 regions in the country. Most of the youth in these regions do not see cocoa farming as an attractive and lucrative venture because of the low income derived from the sale of the dry beans alone. The commercial utilization of the byproducts, Mr. Speaker, can lead to the setting up of small factories and therefore income and make cocoa farming attractive to the youth. Mr. Speaker, the cocoa byproduct is indeed a huge source of material for industrialization. From Cocoa Board's annual report, Ghana produced an average of 558,260 metric tons of dry beans annually over the last 10 years. That is from the 2010-2011 cocoa season to 2019-2020 cocoa season. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, every year, over the 10-year period, a potential of 2.8 million metric tons of cocoa pod husk and over 500,000 metric tons of cocoa sweating to waste. Entrepreneurs can take advantage of this in the establishment of factories in the cocoa growing regions in line with the government's program, One District, One Factory. Speaker, in conclusion, we have to turn research into business opportunities. The country must make conscious efforts to ensure that there is strong linkage between research and industry. Government must also ensure institutions are adequately resourced to enable them conduct quality research to drive local industries in the country. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Kita.
Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to. First of all, I would like to thank the makers of the statement. This is a very good statement and dear to the heart of the members of Parliament. Cocoa Research Institute have been in existence for long, and they have come up with so many products. And then one challenge they are facing is that when we look at those who supported the research, if it is government funded, that is very good because you have no challenges. But if it is funded from outside researchers, the output, the outcome of the research is being used elsewhere. Cocoa Research have been in existence for long, and they have come up with that, and those products remain at the shelf of the Cocoa Research Institute. It is time now, as a country, we move from research to implementation, because implementation is where the problem is. Cocoa Research have so many products, but there is no commercialization of it. And then Ghana, existing of Ghana, we have been exporting cocoa beans in this country for so long. It is time now, under the promise of one district, one factory, we really look at what are the factories we can set up to actually use the cocoa beans, the cocoa itself as a raw material for production. Mr. Speaker, as my honorable colleague at Benchi, we produce dry gin, we produce jam, we produce all sorts of products from cocoa. Look at the Chamber of Parliament right now at the Parliament. In the whole country, you will not see even cocoa drink, which is a soft drink all over being distributed in the schools, even at the Chamber, or even at the Parliament House. We don't have that. Most of our conferences we attend, they only put the coffee break. Meanwhile, we don't consume coffee too much in this country. Why don't you make it cocoa break? To promote the use of cocoa in our conferences, our seminars in the country, as well as our schools. This product can be given to schools, and then we can generate a lot of money from that also. So I think, in my opinion, Mr. Speaker, it is time now Cocoa Research Institute and other research institutions in the country move from research to implementation. On this note, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Offensive South. My table ladies would like to know whether the samples will not be taken. Anyway, Honorable Member for Contemporary, you may take the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement made by my colleagues from the offensive. And in doing so, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the maker of the statement. Mr. Speaker, cocoa contributes a major source of revenue to our nation. And in 2020 to 2021 alone, cocoa has contributed to $2.25 billion, around $390 million to the domestic products. And in terms of production, 850,000 metric tons that has been produced a year. Mr. Speaker, the cocoa sector is being projected to contribute to 2.8 billion Ghana cedis in terms of dollars, $489 million to the nation. But Mr. Speaker, one thing that Ghana has forgotten in cocoa sector is that in the 1990s to 2008, cocoa used to be the major source of revenue until we discovered the oil. But now Ghana, our focus has been shifted to the oil sector in the regretted of the cocoa sector. So, Mr. Speaker, the products, the byproduct that has been mentioned by my colleagues, the question one may ask that how many of us as members of parliament and Ghanaians use this particular byproduct in Ghana? Our taste has been shifted to the foreign products. And I believe that as a Ghanaian, if we want to develop the cocoa sector, then we must develop the taste for this particular byproduct. Mr. Speaker, the cocoa husk can also be used for generation of power. And as a government, I'm happy that the Minister of Food and Agriculture, through Cocoa Board, has initiated the various initiatives in the cocoa growing areas, especially in the Western North. If we come to the Western North, Cocoa Board has employed thousands of youths which are into the rehabilitation of our cocoa sector. And Mr. Speaker, I believe that Ghana, we must establish a university purposely for cocoa. And I believe that Etekwashi has a purpose of bringing this particular product from Fernando Po. But like I said earlier, Mr. Speaker, our focus now in the oil sector, which I believe that in the no time the oil will finish, we need to shift our attention to the cocoa sector. So, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, what I want to say is that I want to urge all members of parliament in our various constituencies and our various, areas, we should develop the taste for the byproducts that has been mentioned by my colleagues. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Honorable member for Dr. Akomedonko, your constituency. Right?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I want to mention your constituency.
Blue East.
Blue East, okay. Blue East, yes. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the son of a cocoa farmer whose father established a community in Krachia Kurania Sabrunum, I rise to associate myself with comments of the maker of the speaker. The maker of the statement. Mr. Speaker, the underlying thrust of the statement is not just our inability or indeed refuse people to make maximum use of cocoa. But Mr. Speaker, it draws me back to a fundamental issue that has worked negatively against the transformation of this country and especially its economy. Mr. Speaker, if you will recall, in 1924, 3 commodities accounted for 90% of the export earnings of the Gold Coast. These 3 commodities were cocoa, timber, and gold. Mr. Speaker, in the last budget statement presented to this House on behalf of His Excellency the President by the Majority Leader, if you look at the tables, 3 commodities again account for over 70% of the export on earnings of this country. Cocoa, gold, and crude oil replacing timber. The tragedy, Mr. Speaker, is that all these 3 commodities are essentially exported in their raw state. And therefore, in terms of transformation, in terms of industrialization, Mr. Speaker, people have made no progress from 1924 to 2020. If we are still exporting our most treasured products in their raw state. And it is in this light that I want to support the call by the maker of the statement that it is high time as a people we decided to take the bull by the horns and go back
if not the 7-year development plan of the First Republic, but at least have a serious effort at industrialization using the raw materials such as cocoa that we produce, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with these few comments, I rise to associate with the maker of the statement.
You see, I'm trying to select members who hail from cocoa growing areas. Anyway, my minister for Western Region.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to add my voice to this special statement by MP for Offensive Science. Mr. Speaker, I'm very delighted to be part of this statement because of a cocoa farmer, Nana Iduse Gwenyina, and the farm is in Chichirwe in the Amenfu West District of the Western Region. Mr. Speaker, you are aware that Western Region is the #1 cocoa producing region in Ghana. And Western Region continue back on that mandate. In fact, the village with the highest cocoa produced in the district in the whole of Ghana is also Amenfu West District. Recently, we are getting some growers in the Nzima areas, and they are also doing very well. Mr. Speaker, on the special topic of using cocoa byproducts to industrialize our rural areas, Mr. Speaker, is very key. My grandmother, Nana Bnejewa, used to do amunchin semna, and I've been part of that process in using cocoa husk, which are bent, and then the alkali is used for the production of these soaps. And I remember when I was a kid, I used to sell some of them, and we say, amunchino, and they say omu. Mr. Speaker, I believe that these products can be developed into international products, packaged so well that they can attract the needed financial resources into our villages. Mr. Speaker, I believe that one of the biggest challenges we've had in this country is that a lot of the research that goes on in our research institution continue to gather dust on the bookshelves. But I believe that with the major policy of one district, one factory, it is important and appropriate that we can link research with industry. And I believe that it is high time the Cocoa Research Institutes actually have a mobile educational program to move from one village to another to enlighten our young men and women on the kind of research they've done and how they can easily be adapted to everyday business projects. Recently, I had a special opportunity to go to a place like Asikeba. And every time you spoke to the young men, when they talked about cocoa growing, it was like it was news to them these days. I believe that this research and the resource that can create wealth and prosperity are the ones that we should promote to them, for them to take the bull by the horn and make sure that they can use these from the research institutions to create more opportunities for themselves and their family. Mr. Speaker, I also do believe that it is high time that we understand that cocoa raw, as exported, will never make Ghana of joy, because we are all aware that just exporting cocoa beans raw only can earn us just around 5 billion. But the market for finished products is over 140 billion. And we have to start playing that game. We have to find a way that we can produce finished products that have value addition and that can necessarily pitch into the market and pitch into that properly. My first suggestion has always been that why don't we invite all the manufacturers into Ghana and even give them the beans for free to give us the chocolates, the finished product that can attract that 140 billion market, and then take half of the profit that they make. Immediately we'll jump. Instead of getting 5 billion, we'll be getting 70 billion. Mr. Speaker, I do believe that it is time that we strategize. We have to have a new strategy for making sure that we can earn more on our cocoa beans so that our farmers can also earn better incomes from this arrangement. We are also aware that recently, because of COVID, the supermarkets at the airports are not operating like the way they used to operate, are not producing chocolate into these areas. And because of that, we've had our own challenge of even exporting our own cocoa beans. Mr. Speaker, I do believe that it's high time Ghanaians have a taste of our own cocoa. It should be the drink, cocoa bricks, the drink for breakfast, the drink for our afternoon lunches, and the drink for our dinners. Instead of doing all these foreign drinks of Coca-Cola, Fanta, and the rest. And I believe that the evidence is very clear that even for the raw cocoa, people know how effective they have been and how they've supported people's health and all that. So with these few words, Mr. Speaker, I do believe that as a country, we should encourage the young ones and get the research institutions to put and market this research that they've done to the young ones who can turn the fortunes of our country around in our own time. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Very much. Honorable Tailabi, but Honorable, before then, let me respectfully direct that sitting be extended beyond 2 o'clock. It's now 2 o'clock. So, Honorable, you can take the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I'll take this opportunity to thank the maker of the statements. Just to state that the statement underscores the fact that there is a need for government to spend research and consume the products thereof, because government is the largest spender. And therefore, if we are producing alcohol, we are producing vinegar, which will be needed. Vinegar, some quality will be needed at hospital, some alcohol will also be needed at hospital. If is to purchase from the Cocoa Research Institute, it would help in establishing another wing that will be producing it, and therefore creating more jobs. Because if you want to depend on, the ordinary Ghanaian, the choice in terms of the cost, because, Mr. Speaker, as we speak today, there are there are more simple ways of producing alcohol. They are producing alcohol from grass. Some are producing from cassava. And the process is very simple. And therefore, in terms of the cost on the market, it is cheaper. However, the process through which, the cocoa sweatings and even the gathering of it to get commercial quantity so you can produce the alcohol will take time and to cost. But then, if government makes a conscious effort to spend on that, we will be creating jobs for those who will go around, collect the sweatings and those who will be working on the production. Mr. Speaker, another thing that we also have to look at is that government must set agenda for the research institutions. Government must let the research institutions solve our problems. And at the end of the day, if government is spending in the development of this product, government will be forced to make use of the end, products. But what we find in our research institutions is that a lot of the time, because government refuses to spend, the research institutions create their own niche, come up with ideas, sometimes sponsored by foreigners, which will not necessarily, solve our problems within this country. And therefore, I'll take this opportunity to call on the government, set the agenda, and then make use of the end, results, so that at least along the line, we'll end up creating more jobs and making sure that some, foreign exchange is retained in this country. Mr. Speaker, on this note, I thank you very much. Thank you.
Honorable members, let him come to leadership. You may yield it to any member if you think so. So, majority leadership.
Honorable Gift here.
Okay. Honorable member for Abuakwa North.
Thank you very much, Leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Cocoa Research Institute Ghana, I am their MP. And I strongly patronize in their product. Mr. Speaker, the quality of their product, nothing can be compared unto as far as cocoa product worldwide is concerned. And the varieties are such that, talking about the variety of soaps or the toiletries, no matter your taste, you have a product of two that will suit your skin color, your taste, and everything. Mr. Speaker, talking about their package, the packages are just good and they fit international standards. So the question is, why don't you find them in the market? Mr. Speaker, the act governing the Cocoa Research Institute do not permit them to highly commercialize their or the byproduct section. And again, with the conditions of service with Kokomo, if they employ many of them to work on the byproduct unit, the cost of the product will also going to be too expensive for ordinary Ghanaian to patronize. Mr. Speaker, it is therefore important that as the statement is made, all of us continue to brainstorm to ensure that either their act is changed or we all get involved to get businessmen to collaborate with them to get these products produced commercially to ensure that the byproducts of cocoa were utilized. And Mr. Speaker, it will surprise you to know that the varieties of these products could even go beyond the benefits of the cocoa bean itself that will benefit locally and internationally. Mr. Speaker, it is my contribution and request that you refer this to Foreign Affairs and Trade Committee so that we see to it that the products are some of the souvenirs you also issue to our friends who visit, so that indirectly we market this product. And the Foreign Affairs could also have markets out there for these byproducts of cocoa, in addition to our main product, chocolate, that we exhibit them at most of our embassies. With those few words, Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate the maker of the statement, Dr. Opoku, and thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yes, minority leadership. From Buem. Honorable member for Buem. Buem, do you produce a lot of cocoa?
Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to add my voice to this very well-researched statement made by the Member of Parliament for Offenso South. Indeed, from the statement, Mr. Speaker, it is quite clear that this is not a country that lacks researchers and that lacks research findings and material that is easy and that will easily be converted into fundable in a commercial nature. The number of products he showed in this house that Cocoa Research Institute alone has developed as byproducts of the cocoa plant, an indication that we haven't traveled, or we have traveled a very far journey with cocoa, but not done much with it. And that what is being demonstrated here as byproduct could actually become the main product and not even the byproduct. It is because we have closed our minds and our eyes to some of these other areas. That is why we have thought that exporting the raw cocoa beans, or by far processing it into chocolate and cocoa powder, is all we can do. There is so much that we can do, and this House should be directing for something substantial to be done with these research findings that has been gathering dust at Cocoa Research Institute. Indeed, I have heard some say that if Cocoa Board carries it further, the product may be too expensive for the ordinary persons. I don't think so. Rather, doing so will mean more money available to them, as indicated during the question and answer section by the Minister for Food and Agriculture. There are times when they have difficulties raising funds from external sources. Can you imagine if we have all these other byproducts, which brings income to Cocoa Board? What it means is that you may not have to go for syndicated loan to even buy the cocoa again. So more money will be available for this country to do other developments. Mr. Speaker, what is more important than even our traditional authorities being encouraged to now accept cocoa gin instead of foreign schnapps? Because this will be a product that will be emanating from trees that are cultivated here locally, that are cultivated on the soils that these our gods have control over. Can you imagine how far this industry? So we must not allow this statement made by our colleague to just gather dust, just like the research findings from the Cocoa Research Institute that is gathering dust. We must do something about this. We should be able to push further to see that by next year, next 2 years, in a 3rd year time, we will be reporting that something meaningful has come out of the cocoa processes, and that we are not only going to be talking about exporting cocoa beans in the raw form and complaining about farmers not being paid for cocoa that have been purchased, but we are talking about a big budget that would have emanated from all these processes, so we can do what? Pay our farmers and pay them well. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I want to take my seat and thank the honorable member for this very well-researched issues that is actually come from the Cocoa Research Institute into this House. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, please permit me to invite honorable member for Manson Kwanta, who is so desirous to also make contribution. I know he hails from a cocoa growing area. So, honorable member, just be snappy.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Apart from our farmers, our parents being farmers, we ourselves are also farmers. And it's very important for us to acknowledge that Ghana seems as being the mainstay contributing to our foreign earning source by having done much to ensure that the cocoa industry has been taken to the best heights that we deserve. If you look at Ghana, we go for syndicated loans, which is cocoa in our country. The cocoa industry is not having attraction to our youth because of the low income that industry is giving to them, the poor rules, poor pest control to have good yield, going to farm, carrying loads on your head, and coming home with loads on your head. All these things are not creating any attraction to people to go into the cocoa industry. On top of technology, we still have to use the manual equipment, the cutlass and others, to do farming. What is time that we also do well to make sure that technology is brought into our cocoa industry. With all this, looking at the industry that came out with all this research, Ghana cannot boast of any good company in this country which is researching and bringing out any good results which can lead the country into industrialization. It is time that we call on our government to ensure that we have industries which are engaging in the cocoa industry, with time that we link research institutions to our TVET institutions to ensure that these research findings are properly utilized. So at the end of the day, we are able to create more companies which are in the cocoa industry using our cocoa products and the byproducts to manufacture goods that you can also export. That is the finished goods, not always exporting our cocoa beans and importing all other materials to our country. For example, when you take the pesticide industry, you will see that all chemicals are imported. But now we have certain companies which are doing well in manufacturing pesticides, which farmers are very much interested. For example, the new Okav industry coming up with new pesticides that are used for pollination and others. At the same time, I believe that if we are going to have such industries develop to export some of these products, it is going to help government to reduce the importation of these alcoholic drinks into the country and enjoy a very good market in our country. In so doing, students also promoting the product from these cocoa byproducts that will also give them jobs. Apart from this, when we are able to reduce our imports of some materials and other goods, which we can use our local materials to manufacture these goods, it means that we're going to reduce the cost of production of cocoa. In the same way, we will save some money, and where our farmers are lacking social security, some of these savings can use to ensure that there's social security for our farmers. Because today, the government is planning as to how we can have money to ensure social security for our farmers. So if in so doing, we are able to come out with this research, engage local manufacturers to produce certain goods that you can export, and then limit our imports, and also engage our local students in the TVET and marketing institutions to market this product for sale, and we are able to save some money in here, we can encourage our farmers to go into farming, we can have our UB attend to farming, save some money to support social security of our farmers, and I believe our other colleagues who are coming up from our institutions will also engage themselves in the cocoa industry, and that will position Ghana as a well-researched country in the cocoa industry to champion the world into better heights. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving the opportunity.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Then finally, Honourable Leader.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the maker of this very wonderful statement, and also all the contributors, I'm sure, have made very clear contributions. But then I just want to add a few, that it's about time some synergy between Cocoa Research Institute, CSIR, Center for Plant Medicine. Clearly, all these institutions have a lot of research results waiting for commercialization, or one which can turn into the establishment of industries for employment generation. And I think what government or the private sector should be thinking about is how you can package some sort of long-term financing for these industries to be established in those localities, or probably centrally in areas that they can easily take advantage of the availability of those raw materials. Mr. Speaker, one of the key things, as I listened to quite a number of my colleagues, we think we are not competing favorably on the international market with some of these products. Not because of the quality, but I think the packaging. Clearly, if you go on some research, rounds to some of the malls, we produce chocolates, but then you realize that people go and pick foreign chocolates simply because it has some sort of attraction because of the packaging. Probably there's a need for us to improve on that, so that at least we can be able to favorably be able to market some of these products. And then also, not only that, I don't know, the standard. So our various institutions that are responsible to ensure that our standards are meeting the international, requirements, also must be up and doing. And so into consideration. And I think this is very important. One, financing
financing to convert this wonderful results into the establishment of these industries to create jobs. And then the packaging, the shelf life of some of our products that we also produce, I think sometimes has a too short a shelf life for them to be exported over long distances, and then going to stay in those, marketplaces for quite a number of maybe months before they are picked. These are some of the things that I think we need to look into. And at the end of the day, we can look within and be able to reserve our foreign exchange for other things. Cocoa industry is huge. We are not really taking advantage of what it stands to give this economy so that we all stand to benefit going forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this short contribution to the wonderful statement that was ably delivered by our colleague from Officio South. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Honorable members, I'm inclined to refer this particular statement to the Committee on Environment, Science and Technology, as well as Trade and Tourism, to look into it as to how best we can benefit the byproducts of cocoa industry. So these two committees are accordingly referred, the statement accordingly referred to these two committees. Honorable members, we have another statement, and that statement is a statement by Honorable Kwame Jujuli Gape, MP for Kita constituency, on the 40th anniversary of the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes and in-country variation of the Ghana law, that is Breastfeeding Promotion Regulation 2000 LI 16. Honorable member, you may take the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much for the opportunity to make this statement on the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitute, otherwise known as Code, which was adopted by the 34th World Health Assembly in May 1985 to address aggressive marketing tactics by the infant and young child feeding industries. These industries were promoting infant formulas, feeding over breastfeeding, and causing a dramatic increase in infant illness and death. Mr. Speaker, the code aimed to contribute to the provision of safe and adequate nutrition for infants and promoting breastfeeding, and by ensuring the proper use of breast milk substitute by restricting promotions that target the general public, mothers, and health workers. Mr. Speaker, the code also provides the policy framework designed to stop commercial interests from activities that decrease the practice of exclusive breastfeeding and threatening the health and nutrition of the young children. Mr. Speaker, breastfeeding is vital to a child's long life nutrition, health, and well-being. Beyond the health benefits, breastfeeding has some economic benefits to family in the way that help address disparities and inequalities. For instance, the prevention of illness as a result of breast milk can enable the families to reduce out-of-pocket expenditure to treat illnesses such as diarrhea and pneumonia. When a population with limited access to health system and infrastructure relies on breastfeeding, it lessens the inequality in access to health services. This is also in the UN Ghana Report 2020. Mr. Speaker, recent studies have shown that optimal breastfeeding can save Ghana over $5.8 million. This amount of money can be spent on healthcare costs and can generate more than $594 million for the economy, which is nearly 1.5% of Ghana's gross net income through having a healthier population. In addition, optimal breastfeeding prevents 3,747 deaths of babies and then 302 maternal deaths from cancer and type 2 diabetes in each year. Mr. Speaker, the benefits of breastfeeding are enormous. Breastfeeding protects children from infections such as tonsillitis and saves lives. It's also emotional bonding between the mother and the baby, along with other mental health benefits. In addition, breast milk is also a natural and renewable food. Breast milk is neither packaged nor shipped. It is neither cooked. It is environmentally friendly. Mr. Speaker, regrettably, despite the wonders of breastfeeding, we are informed that only half of Ghana's children, 52%, are put on the breast in their first hour of life. In addition to that, sadly, exclusive breastfeeding rates for children less than 6 months are declining, currently around 43%. Mr. Speaker, the aggressive marketing of breast milk substitute continue to discourage women from breastfeeding, putting both children and women's health at risk. The 40th anniversary of the adoption of International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitute is an opportunity to mark the significant progress made in protecting and promoting the incomparable benefits of breastfeeding, but also reminder of work still to be done. Ghana, like many countries around the globe, have enacted legislation to implement the key provisions of the Code. Ministry of Health, Ghana Health Service adopted the International Code and enacted Ghana's Breastfeeding Promotion Regulation 2000 LI 167 as a major step towards the eradication of an enabling environment for optimal infant feeding. The enforcement of this law ensures that mothers receive accurate information about breastfeeding and limits use of breast milk substitute, BMS. Only medically indicated situations by putting an end to promotional activity, such as distribution of free BMS. These provisions of the law also include limiting interaction between health staffs and the company agent, and then creating a safer environment for breastfeeding. Mr. Speaker, the country's exclusive breastfeeding rate increased from 2% in 1998 to 63% in 2008. An achievement which has since been eroded, with the BMS being 43%, according to the Mix 2017, after dropping from the 2014 rate of 52. Mr. Speaker, global public health experts agree that the code remains as relevant to today as it was 40 years ago. Reports indicate that last year, some producers and distributors of baby food exploited COVID-19 pandemic to promote their product by invoking unfounded fear and breastfeeding could transmit COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, WHO and UNICEF guideline is clear on this, and they state that the suspected or known to have COVID-19 should continue breastfeeding whilst observing all COVID-19 safety protocol. Mr. Speaker, on the 40th anniversary of the code, the call is for all relevant government institutions, health partners, health workers, and the baby food industries to fully implement and abide by the code requirements. Code requirements such as policy commitment to implementation and enforce the code, country legislation, including subsequent resolution to prevent commercial interests of breast milk producing and distribution companies from undermining breastfeeding
optimal infant and young child feeding, and the health of the children and women, including during pregnancy and breastfeeding. Health workers must protect and promote and support breastfeeding. They must not accept sponsorship from companies that market food for infant and young children for scholarship, award, grant, meetings, or events. Civil society organizations, traditional and religious institutions, corporate agencies, and the media are entreated to join Ghana's Start Right, Free Right campaign to protect breastfeeding and create the enabling environment for the women to breastfeed appropriately. All businesses and private sector must publicly commit to the full compliance globally with International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk and subsequent relevant World Health Assembly resolutions. They must also fully abide by the provisions of the Ghana's Breast Regulation 2000. Mr. Speaker, together we must take the 40th anniversary milestone as an opportunity to sustain the modest gain made in promoting and supporting breastfeeding. We must boldly protect and promote breastfeeding as the best start in life for every child in Ghana. We need to tap into the benefit of breast milk and make it sustainable for the sake of our children. The benefit of breast milk must therefore be championed by all, every policymaker, every health service provider, every employer, every businesses, and then every community, every family, to ensure that no child is left behind, deprived of breastfeeding. Its promotion must be our shared vision and responsibility. Mr. Speaker, there are two critical areas we need to consider making breast milk safe: national legislation and promotion of an enabling environment such as nursing mothers. First of all, the enforcement of the national legislation and the restriction to aggressive marketing of products that undermine breastfeeding will protect mothers and children from the influx of harmful products. Mr. Speaker, studies have shown that breast milk powder substitute can be dangerous to the health of the baby. This cannot be substitute for breast milk, which is natural and help build baby's immunity. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, in providing an enabling environment for nursing mothers, we encourage the public and private sector in Ghana to expand paid family leave and increase the number of workplace breastfeeding policies for all new mothers working in informal sectors, including Parliament of Ghana. This cannot be achieved without engaging with the business sector and social insurance scheme to enact family-friendly policies in line with the International Labour Organization's maternity protection guideline. Mr. Speaker, for us to achieve these two critical goals, we also need to increase public funding to support overall nutritional programs, achieving the global 2025 World Health Assembly targets and the UN Sustainable Development Goals pertaining to nutrition require an increase in investment in the nutrition. The National Budget Preparation for 2021-2024 and the upcoming Nutrition for Growth Summit in 2021 offers two great opportunities to us to ensure investment in nutrition is increased. These two opportunities give us a chance to ignite a national call for increased financial investment that support breastfeeding efforts and stimulate all actors in Ghana to significantly scale up strategies that support adequate nutrition for the young. Mr. Speaker, thank you for this great opportunity. God bless us all.
Yes, Honourable Member for Krote, Kole Krote.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement on the 40th anniversary of the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes. The The WHO and UNICEF recommend that breastfeeding is commenced within 1 hour of birth. And this is because the first milk that comes nursing mother's breast, which is called the colostrum, provides the baby with the necessary antibodies and protection, almost as if that's the first immunization or the first vaccine that the child is exposed to. And the WHO also recommends that nursing mothers breastfeed for 2 years. Clearly, 2 years is a long time, and personally, I have 3 daughters, and I was only able to breastfeed for up to 1 year for all 3 of them. And it takes a lot to do that, even exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months. However, the rationale behind that is to try and reduce the incidence of mortality due to the diarrhea that usually tends to happen with children at that age. Mr. Speaker, to create an enabling environment for breastfeeding mothers, not just in the cities, but across board, it goes beyond the legislation on the substitutes of feeding. It also comes down to the provision of feeding rooms in all the institutions, for example, in the ministries and other departments and agencies, and Parliament as well, which still has not provided childcare facilities or nursing rooms for breastfeeding mothers. Mr. Speaker, all public buildings, malls, and other public areas should have these places where mothers can breastfeed, because we have ourselves in a time where there's a younger generation of nursing mothers who do not want to expose their breasts in public as they are feeding their children, and therefore are not encouraged to do what is best for the children. And providing these nursing rooms or these breastfeeding rooms, that provides them with the privacy that they need in order to do the best for the children, will be useful for these mothers who would obviously want to do the best for their young. Mr. Speaker, if Parliament could perhaps set the example by starting off, if we could find facilities, as a location on the premises for nursing mothers as well as for childcare, perhaps we could set the example for what should exist in all the ministries, the buildings that the government owns, as well as public areas. Mr. Speaker, as we push for more and more women to do the drive towards breastfeeding, a lot more information needs to be provided to nursing mothers about the importance of what they consume. Beyond that, as a mother is breastfeeding, there are certain things that she shouldn't be consuming. For example, the consumption of alcoholic beverages, certain antibiotics and drugs which find their way into the breast milk and can affect. And so if perhaps the Ministry for Gender, Children and Social Protection, in combination with the NCCE, could launch a drive to push for the increased awareness and greater breastfeeding amongst our young mothers, that perhaps would help to increase the uptake with regards to women who are doing more breastfeeding exclusively, at least for the first 3 to 6 months, before introducing other food. This is going to be difficult unless mothers are provided, especially working mothers, with the option for paid maternity leave. And, the short maternity leave that mothers get is one of the things that prevents a lot of mothers from being able to give their breast milk to their children for as long as possible. So, Mr. Speaker, these may have to come under some of the recommendations that we may look to encourage with regards to changes in legislation to support women. If indeed the affirmative action bill is going to come before us, if we are looking to have more women engaging actively in the political landscape as well as other areas, then it's important that we make provision for facilitating women being able to be the best they can be while climbing up the ladder in positions of leadership. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Honourable Member for Tando North.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably made by my colleague on the other side. This is a very important statement, and I'm happy that he's brought it to the fore for us to discuss. I want to emphasize on the last page of his statement, where he's suggesting that we need to make breastfeeding safe. And also he talked about national legislation and the provision of an enabling environment such for nursing mothers. My colleague Honorable Zinato also talked about the fact that we have to set the example. Even in Parliament here, we don't have any space for mothers to breastfeed when it's time for them to breastfeed. They'll resume after 3 months or 4 months, And since they don't have any place to breastfeed their children, they have no other option than to find other supplements for the babies. Exclusive breastfeeding, Mr. Speaker, is very, very important, and it's very, very enormous, as my colleague on the other side said. Exclusive breastfeeding, Mr. Speaker, provides ideal nutrition for breast milk. Contains everything that the baby needs to survive. Breast milk contains important antibodies, the doctors will tell you, that help the baby to fight viruses and other bacteria. In the wake of COVID-19, we should do a lot of advocacy on breastfeeding because we want to protect our babies. Apart from the fact that it serves as a bond between mother and child, it also protects the baby. Sometimes I find it difficult to understand why people think that when you breastfeed, especially maybe the younger generation, they think that my breast will shrink or my breast will sack and I don't want to have a flat breast. Are you comparing your flat breast or the sagging of your breast to the healthy provision of breast milk for your baby? We should look into it than just thinking about ourselves, that we think that it will affect my breast, so I'm not going to breastfeed. Mr. Speaker, breastfeeding is very important. It prevents illness from day 1 through to the 6 months that nurses and doctors and midwives advise women to breastfeed. They advise us, especially when you go through antenatal, when you deliver, they advise you to breastfeed exclusively for 6 months. I've been told that the breast milk contains about 60% or 70% of water. Some people, instead of giving the babies breast milk, they give them other food, and they even give them water to drink. Meanwhile, you cannot tell whether the kind of water that you are giving your baby is good enough for him or her to drink. So that's why we advise that feed your baby exclusively for 6 months. It also may have long-term benefits for the mother as well. So it's a mutual beneficial provision for both mother and child. As much as the baby is going to benefit from the nutritious value of the breast milk, the mother is also going to benefit from it as well. It may also have longer-term benefits, as I said, reducing the risk of overweight. Exclusive breastfeeding, we've been told, reduces overweight. So as much as you want to protect your breast, when you continue to breastfeed your baby, it also enables you to control your weight. And Mr. Speaker, I want to also emphasize here that we all, you men have your sisters, you have mothers, you have wives and all that. The breast milk, especially when your baby is born, is exclusively for the baby. When God created us, have we seen any provision in the Bible which says that we should give breast milk to the men? Breast milk is meant for babies. Let's allow our children to enjoy the breast milk to the fullest, before, during, and after. Let's protect our babies. Don't fight with the breast milk with your baby. Make sure that the baby has the fullest access to the breast and the breast milk, because it's not meant for men, it's meant for babies. Mr. Speaker, exclusive breastfeeding is very important. It protects the babies against diarrhea, common childhood illnesses such as pneumonia and other illnesses that may crop up, because when the baby is from day 1 to 6 months, he or she needs exclusive, not only for breastfeeding, care. Everything of that baby has to be clean, it's thoroughly clean. So as much as breastfeeding bonds mother and child, we should know that whatever we are giving to the baby is clean. You keep your breast, the surroundings of your breast clean. The nipple has to be cleaned all the time. If possible, you have to even cover it with a gauze or something to make it clean. Don't just, many times your baby starts crying, you just dip your breast out and start giving it to the baby. You don't want, as much as you are feeding the baby with breast milk, you don't want him or her to also contact any form of other illnesses like diarrhea and common illnesses like pneumonia, because an infant is an infant and we have to protect her. So, Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I want to commend the Speaker and also remind all of us, like Dr. Zenato said, that we live in, the dynamics are changing. Most of the MPs here, the clerks, parliamentary staff, we're all career women. So after 3-4 months when you resume work, you have to find space to breastfeed your child. So as Parliament, we need to look at that very seriously and see how best we can make provision for a room for our ladies to breastfeed when the time is due for them to breastfeed. With these few words, I commend the statement, the maker for bringing the statement up to prevent our baby's infection and also to bring to the fore that the breast milk in our breast is exclusively for the babies. When it's time for you to enjoy small, give the rest for the babies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable, hold on. Let me invite Honorable Member for K2 South.
Thank you, Speaker, for this opportunity. I'd like to start by congratulating my colleague, Honorable Jijoli Kwame Gakpa, for this statement. And to also say that I identify myself with what Honorable Zanato Ajima Rawlings also said. And to add that the statement caused a lot of excitement around here. When a dog bites a man, it's no news, but when a man bites a dog, it's news. So when a man talks about breastfeeding on behalf of women, that man must be applauded. And so I thank you very much, Honorable Gapper. Mr. Speaker, I want to propose that we increase the number of months that women have to breastfeed their children, and to say that those of us who practice the 6 months exclusive breastfeeding can testify that our children didn't fall sick throughout their first year growing up. And so it is important that we, as a parliament, consider ways in which we can assist the state to increase the number of months that women have. Maternity leave and where we bond with our children must receive attention as if it's a national disaster about to happen. If we want to spend less on the amount of money we provide for health care, then it is important that we put in place steps that address the problem before they become ones that will need so much resource. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge our men to continue to support and encourage our women to breastfeed their children and to make time for them in office spaces, especially when we have tea breaks, cocoa break, and coffee breaks. Let's have breastfeeding breaks as well. If you have a breastfeeding mother, a mother who is breastfeeding in your organization, it is important that we create time for them to go and take care of their babies. A healthy child will indeed be a healthy adult. Mr. Speaker, I think that it's about time that we created changing spaces in our corporate entities. There has to be a place where parents, mothers, nursing mothers can go and change their children, breastfeed them, and have a little time with them. It is not too much to ask. It reduces the stress on both parents. And Mr. Speaker, it will be important, and it's also good if we give men paternity leave to assist in the raising of our children. My beloved father, who is 96 years old now, used to help my mother when she goes to the market to take care of us. And I can assure you that that bond that was created is the reason why I still visit him on a daily basis when I can. I don't know about the parliament whose wives have young kids. I don't know if we have anything in place to assist them to perhaps close early and go and take care of their infants, to give a break to the mothers. Mr. Speaker, carrying a child for 9 months, delivering them, caring for them, waking up at night, to feed them and change them can be daunting and exact all kinds of energy away from the mother. If the men are given support to be home, I am sure that the mother's health will be better. Mr. Speaker, in 2000, ILO released a convention on the Maternity Protection Convention, 183. 20 years down the line, Ghana has not ratified that convention. How can the discourse that we're having today find its feet if we do not have this convention ratified? As a newborn champion, it is my pleasure to add my voice to this statement and to ask that the ministries that are in charge of bringing that convention to this parliament to be ratified take the necessary steps. Hurry up and bring it here so we can do that for them. With that convention in place, ratified, I am sure that we'll be able to discuss further the various kinds of platforms and opportunities that we can assist nursing mothers with. That said, Mr. Speaker, finally add that perhaps it's about time that we separate the maternity wards from the nursing spaces in our hospitals, and also provide the necessary gadgets, machines, and equipment for the NICUs in all the hospitals that we have. The NICUs are the places where they care for infants who have one condition or the other. I have been to many of them, and the least said about it, the better. It's a disaster. It's a shame. I think that we can do better as a country, and I urge this House to be the voice for the young infants who will be inheriting this country from us. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I'd like to thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Honorable Leader, I'll come to you, but let me first and foremost invite the first male who want to contribute. The Honorable Member for, is it Sene? Sene West, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, breast milk is very, very important for our kids. Mr. Speaker, our mothers can feed our kids whereby they have good food. But some parents, they find it difficult to get good food to eat. Therefore, you should find a way of supporting them. If you go to other countries, some of the advanced countries, they support the mothers and the kids by giving them food, good, nice food or good food, nutritional food, so that the mother can eat well. And then apart from the breastfeeding, the babies also have the food that also support them or help them. So as a country, you should be able to do that so that our kids can feed well and grow well and think so that they become good adults. Mr. Speaker, breastfeeding helps a lot, both mothers and the kids, prevent them from a lot of illness, pneumonia, cancers, a whole lot. Mr. Speaker, you can think about it or you can go through that. So it's important for our mothers to feed them well. Therefore, or men, we need to support our women so that when they give birth, they can feed their kids well and the kids will grow very well. Mr. Speaker, I think we have to also make a space, like others are saying, to all other places where those like governmental workers or other workers, so when they go to work, they can have a space and time to feed their kids well, so that it won't be like pressure on them. The Speaker, it's very, very important for us to do that. With these few words, I think it's important for us to feed our kids well, so that the kids eat well, have nutritious food, and become good adults, and think well, so that they can also grow well and become somebody. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Finally, I will invite Honorable Member Fada. Unfortunately, ladies. Anyway, Honorable Member Fada.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to add my voice to the statement made by my honorable colleague from Qatar. Mr. Speaker, breastfeeding is something that normally we don't take it as serious something when it comes to breastfeeding our babies. All in the name of keeping my breast so that it doesn't fall flat. And it's like the youth are being misled by people that if you feed your baby, you have a flat breast. Mr. Speaker, I've fed 6 babies, but my breast is not flat. So if you have a flat breast...
Honorable Member, I didn't hear that.
Mr. Speaker, if you have a flat breast, it doesn't matter whether you feed a baby or you not feed a baby. So let us feed the babies. Let us give it to them. 6 months, no water. Don't add anything to it. I'm begging some of the grandmothers, they should support their children to feed this baby. Let's encourage them. The grandmother, tell her what it is. Because I fed babies 6 months and the benefit I had from it. For that, the whole 6 months, you will never have a problem with the baby. You will never attend any hospital apart from weighing, because there will be no headache, there will be no diarrhea, there will be no other illness. Mr. Speaker, the truth of the matter is you will save money too in addition. Because to buy baby food is not a joke. A baby can take one thing in 4 days. But God has given you the original one to give the baby. Help the baby in nursery school. Because when you feed them exclusively and they enter the nursery school, the teachers who are good, they know these babies have had exclusive breastfeeding. Because those who have the lethargy, they are different. When they enter the school, they are peche. And those who are the exclusive, that they have been well catered for before they enter there. So, Mr. Speaker, I will encourage the youth who are yet to give birth that they should never say breastfeeding will destroy their breast, or they will have flat breast, so they won't feed babies with their breast. 2, they should never say, because I'm working, so I will leave the baby in the house in the morning and go back in the evening to breastfeed my baby in the evening. What would they be giving the baby before you return? In Australia Parliament, lower Parliament, a member of Parliament took the baby to Parliament House and breastfeed the baby in Parliament House. The woman knows the benefit of exclusive breastfeeding. So I'm urging all the youth who are yet to give birth that they should see it as one of their duties. They should see it as one of the things that will keep their boys or their girls' babies healthy. Even after they are 18 years, you see the difference. That these babies are different from those who didn't get that opportunity. Mr. Speaker, let me take the opportunity to advise the youth, especially the girls, that there's time for everything. The time for them to give birth is boldly written. They shouldn't underrate it, because if you don't know and you escape it, you skip it, you will start going round. That's where you will start looking for pastors to pray for you and other things. But if you do it at the right time, your mother is very healthy at that right time to support you, look after your baby. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the men too, they should allow the babies to grow before they start asking. Is the baby not too old? Is it not enough? If they start asking those questions, it pushes the women out. So, Mr. Speaker, we should take notice of all these things and make sure we breastfeed our babies properly within 6 months before we give them water. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me, today I'm giving the opportunity to the ladies. Let me invite Honorable Member for Okai Queen of. Is it Okai Queen of? Okay, good.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement. I would like to also make of the statement, especially being a man. Most of the times, our men compete with the children for the breast. And so to have a very bold man who would come out and give out this statement, I want to say kudos to you. I would like to advise our women, Honorable Speaker, to take breastfeeding very serious, because there are benefits, a lot of benefit the mother gets from breastfeeding the child. Most elite mothers are the ones who are guilty of not breastfeeding our children. Because we think that we know all the formulas in town, we can provide or we can buy all the formulas to feed our kids. We neglect the aspect of breastfeeding. Breastfeeding provides health benefits for mothers beyond emotional satisfaction, Mr. Speaker. Mothers who breastfeed recover from childbirth quickly. And mothers who also breastfeed do not go through so much stress buying medications for their children. There are mothers who do not breastfeed. If you look at the rate at which mothers get cancers, when you investigate or get a research on it, you get to know that most of these mothers deny their children of breast milk. And so we are urging all women out there that when you give birth to your child, 6 months exclusive breastfeeding, it is what is good for the child. Advantages that mothers get from breastfeeding, some are the babies become very healthy. Children do not fall sick easily, and it makes the children very healthy. Mr. Speaker, all our institutions should also find space. They should create mothers so that when we come to work and we are breastfeeding, we will not shy away from feeding our children. We will have the space, especially Parliament, should take that initiative. Like Honorable Senator said, let's create a place for our mothers. We have most of our women who have given birth, but due to space to breastfeed our children, they are staying in the houses, or they come and leave the kids in the office. I don't think it is conducive. So Parliament should take the necessary steps and provide avenue for our nursing mothers. When we come to the house to do our normal duties, we'll have the opportunity to also feed and bond with our children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me invite Honorable Member for Abuakwa North. From there, I'll come to you, the lady. Then finally, I will end up with Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I commend the maker of this statement. It is a very important statement that he has made, and I thank him for that. Mr. Speaker, talking about exclusive breastfeeding, even though stressful, even though stressful, but that's the best every woman sacrifice to do. The most painful part of motherhood is when your child is ill at a very tender age, especially with diarrhea and other immune disorders. Research has proved that mothers who breastfeed their children exclusively for 6 months hardly suffers from diarrhea and immune disorders. Mr. Speaker, when mothers breastfeed their children exclusively, the mothers themselves, they have their recovery from birth and all those complications settled earlier than without the exclusive breastfeeding. Again, the mother also benefits from hormonal balance, ensures that the mother could go through breastfeeding and without even resuming the menstrual cycle, that is postponing the possibility of the next birth. So the exclusive breastfeeding itself, it's a natural family planning itself. Mr. Speaker, the first breast milk that comes off the mother's breast, that is the colostrum. The colostrum contains all the antibodies a child needs to grow in the midst of all infections, to make sure that the child hardly contracts any form of illness. Mr. Speaker, children who exclusive breastfeeding are healthier, as my other colleagues have said. Even their skin, you see that their skin is so intact and looks good. Again, research has proved that, Mr. Speaker, children who benefit from exclusive breastfeeding, these children are more caring and they care much more for other fellow human beings than those who feed them on the various formula. Mr. Speaker, yes, we appreciate that as career women, it is stressful to go through exclusive breastfeeding because we go through a lot of stress. And Mr. Speaker, research has also proved that when a woman is under stress, the gland responsible for lactating hardly respond positively. So I'll see this opportunity to appeal to women that, yes, it's stressful, but should not think about other things that are not primarily important and concentrate on the gift of birth God has given us, and with that, breast milk will always be in abundance. Mr. Speaker, we could compare with breastfeeding. Again, it protects the woman from the possibility of getting any form of cancers, especially get to do with that of the reproductive system and that of the breast itself. And I appeal to the family. At that time, the woman needs a lot of support from other relatives and especially from the husband to keep encouraging her, to calm her down so that she could produce more milk, save the family a lot of money. And Mr. Speaker, when you are traveling and you taking your children along on exclusive breastfeeding, all that you need is your baby. You don't need a sterilizer, you don't need a feeding bottle, you don't need an extra bag. You just pick your baby and off you go. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that it is most convenient, even though stressful, with a lot of effort. All women, we could support, give our children exclusive breastfeeding. And on this, I want to commend Nestle Ghana Limited. Nestle Ghana Limited has a whole apartment for breastfeeding. So mothers, breastfeeding mothers at Nestle, they have a place to keep their children. They have a facility to express the milk. They have a facility to keep the milk warm. And women working there and keeping their babies, they are always comfortable because they could go along with their nannies and their helps to keep their babies and breastfeed them as and when the baby wants to be fed. On this note, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you and also thank the maker.
Yes, my sister. What constituency?
Timpani constituency.
Timpani constituency,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute. We are most grateful for the maker of this statement I know he did it on behalf of women, so we are grateful for the statement. I just want to add one or two benefits to whatever he has given. Breastfeeding in itself is a difficult task for women because women today are career women. To wake up in the morning, breastfeed your child, and go to work is not an easy task. And I think that we as human beings, or we as Ghanaians, should put our heads together to see how we can help women to go through this process. One of them is we have to look at the labor laws again to see how we can factor breastfeeding into our labor laws. For instance, a woman with multiple deliveries will find it difficult to breastfeed about 2 or 3 children. I am a typical example myself. I had triplets, and I was working as a nurse. It's difficult to wake up in the morning, bath your children, breastfeed 3 children, go to work and work and close at 3 o'clock, and come back and breastfeed the children. So I think that the country as a whole should look at it. If maternity leaves can be increased, so that at least you'll be able to breastfeed your child exclusively before the 6 months. So that after the 6 months, you can now go to work and you add any other additive or any food that the child will eat. And then I'm looking at it. If it is possible, an employer can increase the break or the lunch break time for breastfeeding mothers, so that they'll be able to take their time and breastfeed their children in whatever capacity, whether it is in the employer's place of work or the employees, or to go back to the house and breastfeed the child and come back. And I think with this, we are not asking for too much. Again, when you look at breastfeeding, they have enumerated a lot of benefits of breastfeeding. But one of the key ones that I want us to note, that it reduces postpartum complications. Postpartum complications, one of them immediately after you've given birth. And I think health workers should come out, or healthcare providers should intensify their education to any prospective mother who is coming up, that it is okay or it is good to breastfeed your child and still have your body intact, as the other people already mentioned. Again, I will plead with our husbands and society as a whole that when a woman is breastfeeding, she needs the necessary encouragement so that she'll be able to do whatever she's doing and do it well. She's breastfeeding, she's your wife. Kindly help her. If you can help her to and do other things, it is okay. If it is also that you can do some of the activities in the house for her, she also appreciate it. And I think in that angle, it will be able to help the breastfeeding mothers to do whatever is necessary for the baby. Let us come back to artificial breast milk. They are formulas, yes, they are good for our children, but they are not good in totality because they are difficult to prepare. It's time wasting. It is time consuming. It needs a lot of care. It's expensive. We are going to buy something. You have to clean the feeding bottles. You have to clean all the necessary items that you need to prepare for the child. So I will plead with mothers that if we breastfeed our children, it's better, it's less cheaper, it's very, very easy, and it is good for the child. Let us see if we can take care of the nurseries, especially when it comes to our employment or our employees. If you have an employee who is breastfeeding, I think it would be better for society to look at it by providing nurseries. And even if it is that they have to take the salary, just small percentage, to take care of that nursery, so that what happened in the other school the other day will not happen. If there's a nursery in wherever the lady is working, she wouldn't have gone to leave her child with the school, and finally the child will die. So I want to add to the fact that we need nurseries wherever we work, so that it will be easier for us to breastfeed our children and work at the same time. With these few words, I am most grateful, Mr. Speaker, and I also want to thank the maker of the statement for echoing into our eyes, or into what it is necessary for we women to go on with our lives and to work and take care of our babies at the same time. We are most grateful. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, again for the time.
Thank you, Honorable Lydia. Honorable Majority Leader, Deputy Minority Leader, you want to say something? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this glorious opportunity to contribute to the statement, which is a well-researched one, Mr. Speaker. The maker of the statement actually identified the benefits of breastfeeding. In fact, he identified two main benefits. The first one is the health benefit and economic benefit to the individual. The health benefit to the child, and the health benefit to the mother, and the economic benefit to the family. All that has been talked about by members. There is one that members did not actually touch on, which is the economic benefit to the state. Mr. Speaker, the maker of the statement provided some data to support his argument that the breastfeeding, exclusive breastfeeding, can save Ghana a total amount of $5.8 million annually. And this amount of money can be spent on healthcare costs and can generate more than $4 million for the economy. So this is very important that the state must take a look at. That if we spend budget to promote exclusive breastfeeding, we are saving $5.8 million, which we can then deploy to other healthcare costs. And then the multiplying effect is that we will generate $594 million. It's very important for the state. In fact, the maker of the statement said this is nearly 1.5% of Ghana's GDP. So, Mr. Speaker, it is very important that the benefits are such that if government take this seriously, the economic benefit to the state, as well as health benefit to the individual households, are enormous. Mr. Speaker, the maker of the statement continued that the exclusive breastfeeding increased from 2% in 1988 to 63% in 2008. I have a problem with that, the statistics. Now, Mr. Speaker, you were born before 1988. I was also born before 1988. Our mothers had 100% breastfeeding. 100%. In fact, our mothers in the past, they depend solely on breastfeeding. It's education that is causing all these things, that people are here, they don't breastfeed. It's education. So you can't say that exclusive breastfeeding increased from 2% in 1988. 1987, what was the percentage? 1964, when I was born, what was the percentage? Don't calculate my age. So, maybe at that time, there was no data. Maybe there was no data. But I can say that at that time, rather, the rate was than now. Okay? So, but that is what we have. And that is the data that the honorable member researched from the multiple indicator cluster survey, which was where he picked the data from. So yes, we all know now the benefit of breastfeeding is very important for us. Now, he also identified the challenges of breastfeeding. And the question is, why are women not prepared to breastfeed exclusively for the 6 months? Some of them have been captured in terms of the working class. They are working, they are given 3 months maternity leave. After the 3 months, the 4th month, the mother is at work. How can she breastfeed the child? So government must also look at that angle. If you want complete breastfeeding, then let's look at what should be the maternity leave for our mothers. So that is one of the challenges. Again, another challenge, which I will attribute or trace to men. Men prefer breasts that are standing than those that are sleeping. So, I'm saying that most men prefer the breast that is standing or upright to the one that is sleeping or flat. So, women don't want to breastfeed so that their breast can be flat, so that the husbands will go and look for a young one that has standing breast. Mr. Speaker, so men like both the flat and then the standing ones. Once we do that, the women will do the breastfeeding. It's very important. Very, very important. So, that is now, Mr. Speaker, when we have this benefit and we have the challenge, how do we solve it? The member, a maker of the statement, says that we need to also increase public funding to support advocacy for the breastfeeding, and then also to implement the code, the international code of marketing of breast milk substitute. So, once mothers depend on breastfeeding, devoid of the challenges that I talk about, the companies that are producing these substitutes will also have to probably look at what they also need to do in order to support the marketing of their products. Again, nobody is saying that mothers should not breastfeed. They depend on substitute for breastfeeding. By saying that you have exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months. Then after the 6 months, you can depend on the... So government needs to spend a little more for the implementation of the code, to enforce it. Government also needs to look at the challenges in terms of how mothers can be available to breastfeed their newborn babies for the 6-month period. If all these things are done, the benefit goes back to help the state in terms of resources that can grow the economy. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the maker of the statement for a very well-researched, and probably we should not live here. If the Speaker can refer this to the Committee on Health or to the Ministry of Health for some action to be taken out of this statement. So, once again, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Honorable members, I'm called to refer the statement to the Committee on Health. and therefore the Committee of Health, please take note, this statement is also being referred to you. Look into it and report back to the House. Honourable members, we have brought the statement time to a close. And I would like to thank all of you, the makers of the statements, and all of you who have also contributed to the statement. Honourable leaders, let me come to you for indication.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think we've already touched on item 6, Roman number 2. That was the only thing. 6. 7 is just a notification on committee meeting. So without much, Mr. Speaker, we are in your hands for adjournment.
Yes, Honourable Deputy Minority.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, it's past 2 o'clock, so we are in your hands.
Honourable members, the House is accordingly adjourned till tomorrow, Thursday, 10 June 2021 in the forenoon. I thank all of you for your attention.